Hi, I'm Pam Fox. Thanks for watching. So thanks for being here. In my last video, I posed the question, for you to ask of yourselves, are my relationships important enough to make a priority? And do I want to take this challenge? Do I want to make an effort to go deeper in my relationships? And so I would imagine most of you would answer yes to that question on some level. And so I asked you to come up with 3 people in your family that you are ready to practice on, in essence, that you're willing to reach out and make connections with in order to, for the specific purpose of going deeper in your relationship, improving that relationship. So I hope you've got a couple of people in mind, and hopefully, as you were reflecting upon this, maybe you came up with some ideas on how you could specifically take those action steps today or sometime this week to reach out and touch someone. So I just thought I'd briefly talk about just a couple of things. Have you guys ever heard of the 5 love languages? It's a book by Gary Chapman, and he talks about the 5 love languages. And the premise of the book is that we each speak our own love language. And if you don't know my love language, then you can't effectively express love to me in ways that I can receive it best. That's kind of the premise of the book. And he says that there are 5 love languages, and each of us has a primary love language out of that 5. And so you can go over to the website, or you can buy the book, and you can take a test and find out what your primary love language is. So they'll line up in order of preference. So you'll have one that's kind of your primary love language, and then they'll come in order after that. What are they? They are words of love or affirmation is one, physical touch is one, gifts is one, quality time, and acts of service. So those are the 5. So in other words, if my primary love language is acts of service. So if somebody loves me and they come to me and they want to express love to me, and let's say they bring me a gift, and that's on the bottom, that's my least primary love language. So that's a nice thing that they did. It was a loving thing that they did, and I received that love. But if they had come to me and said, "Oh, I see you're sick, I'm going to clean your house so you can take a nap," or whatever, acts of service. If they were to have come to me and done that, I would have really felt and received that love, because that's my primary love language. So I think this is a really interesting thing to take a look at. Now, you can't automatically know everyone's love language. In your marriage, for example, you and your spouse can take this test and discover each other's love language, which is great, because then you can more effectively express love to one another in the language that your spouse speaks. But we all receive love in all 5 of these love languages. If you were to come to me and say something kind and loving to me, I would receive that as a loving thing. If you were to come to me and give me a hug, I would receive that as a loving thing. So we all receive in all of those ways. So keep those 5 love languages in mind when you are trying to come up with ways to make connections with your 3 people today or sometime this week. So how are you going to reach out to the people in your family? How are you going to make those connections? Well, there are a lot of obvious answers. We have lots of forms of communication in today's society and in our time. And so obviously you can text, you can email, you can IM, you can FaceTime, you can Snapchat. There's a lot of things that you can do. You can pick up the phone and make a phone call. You can write a letter. You can even send a card in the mail. Do any of you guys do that? Do you send cards in the mail? I don't. So there are a lot of ways that you can reach out and touch someone, but they take effort, don't they? It means taking time out of your day to say, I am going to make this connection. It means making it a priority. It's important, and so therefore I'm going to do it. Now, when are we going to make these connections? And I would suggest in the beginning of this challenge to keep it simple. Don't be like, oh, I gotta, plan a family reunion and gather 100 people together at an event where there's going to be food and music and wine, and keep it simple. Maybe you're just going to text somebody and say, what's going on? What's up? How are you? It could be as simple as that. Reach out and touch someone. As simple as that. That's where it starts. But again, when are we going to make these connections, and how often are we going to make these connections? That's the other question you need to ask yourself. So obviously when it comes to connections in our relationships, I was saying this a couple of videos ago. If you have a connection with someone and you lose that connection, the relationship is going to slowly diminish, isn't it? The quality of it is going to diminish. Maybe you still love and care for that person, and you always will for the rest of your life. But the actual relationship will diminish because there's no longer those connections. So there needs to be somewhat of consistency in those connections. If we're talking about our spouse, that's a great example. How many times have you seen couples who fall apart and get divorced? They say, oh, we just grew apart. Well, that's exactly what happened. They grew apart because they weren't making those connections. They weren't making their relationship a priority and spending the time together, reaching out. You know, are you dating your wife? Are you dating your spouse? Do you go out on a date every week? How consistent are you with that? With your grown children, they move off and go to college and they have their own life, and it's so easy to say, they're busy, they have their own life, they're trying to spread their wings, and so you give them space, and there's nothing wrong with that, but there has to be some kind of consistency in any relationship if you want to keep that relationship alive. And so think about the consistency. So when you think about these three people in your family and you start to question, how am I going to reach out? Also question when I'm going to reach out. Am I going to do it right now? Am I going to do it tonight? Am I going to do it on Friday night? And then how frequently am I going to reach out? Am I going to do it every Friday night? Am I going to do it every day? If you're in a relationship with somebody that you want to improve and you already connect with them every day, then obviously just, texting them, if you already text them every day, you've got to come up with something different to go deeper. You've got to come up with something more frequent to go deeper. It's got to be something else. So spend some time thinking about your family members, how you want to connect with them. If you're coming up with a blank as to, ideas on how to connect, oh my goodness, go to the internet and type in, how do I connect with loved ones, and see what comes up. There's so many resources out there for us, guys, when it comes to really everything, but this included. Spend some time, make the effort. There are a lot of inspirations and ideas out there if you're coming up, empty-handed. There's a lot out there. You just have to take the time and look for it, and you will be inspired, and you will find something that will be like, yeah, that is perfect for this person. That's what I'm going to do. Okay? So that's it for today. I really hope that you guys will come back here to the Up Your Game Facebook page and share if you reached out and touched someone and something unique or special happened. I really hope that you'll share. I found last month when I started this challenge that that's exactly what happened. And I'll be sharing a little bit more about that as time goes on. But I hope that you'll feel comfortable to come back and share. It doesn't have to be something mind-blowing, but if something special, maybe you just called up an old cousin and they were just like, oh, I was just thinking about you, or oh, I was just having the worst day, and your timing couldn't have been more perfect. Something really cool about that. We'd love to hear about it. I love hearing those stories. They're very warm and fuzzy and inspirational. So please share if you have a story like that. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up. I got to go. I got to get to work. And as always, you guys have an awesome day, and thanks for watching.